Hey guys, I'm here to get into Bronson, which was released in 2008 and directed by Nicolas Refn. And this just increasingly holds up. It's just one of my all-time favorite films because it's just a very raw kind of close-up that just chaos in a man who just honestly really loves living in a sense of self-torment. It's like a creative sense of just loving the sense of prison life in a way that's just I think it's just a warped dark comedy perspective to the absolute max this guy Psycho has, you could say. And it's very influenced by a lot of just mid 90s Danny Boyle in a lot of ways, as well as you could say like early 70s Stanley Kubrick in general. But it's kind of over the top kind of like expressionism from Tom Hardy. But his acting is just really one of my favorite performances he's ever done to date. I just love how much entertainment he could find in his own depths and nihilism. And Nicolas Winding Refn just masterfully kind of studies these characters who have a violent nature about them, but they ultimately can kind of just cope in their day to day. The nihilism is so strong, and sometimes like studying the bad guy in a warped mind where he's almost like a good psycho genius. Like he's a bad psycho, but he's a genius element about him too. So it's like it washes over. It's very mesmerizing from start to finish. A lot of these scenes feel like very over the top. Like there's a lot of like pain around, but it feels like it's always reaching for a darkly comedic perspective. You could say you hear a lot of violence, and again, it's extremely balanced of like Kubrick and Boyle, but more than anything, I really feel a lot of it living in here. But yeah, this film just explores just the prisoner just going through all kinds of just acting totally insane all throughout. But it's like he's so eccentric, and it's like, well, he's actually happy. Like that's what's insane about it. It's just like it's very dysfunctional how it portrays all this. And Refn kind of just I think his stylization, like I used to almost be a little challenged, but sometimes I think it's ahead of its time how much the characters are perfectly fleshed out. I think he's just a heavy world builder, a heavy atmosphere. Sometimes the screenplays are almost too overbearingly minimal in his later, I think, films. But I think in the 2000s era, he really had it down, and up to the early 2000s as well, 2010s. But here it's just like, yeah, it's just an incredible character study. I mean, I love all these scenes. Every moment of it's extremely entertaining. There's just wonderful memories just watching this over and over again, just mesmerized by these scenes when I'm in my youth. And I just think now, this is back when I was like obsessed with stuff like Clockwork Orange. I mean, when I was 15, that had the loudest and maybe one of the loudest influence of any film. And this is just one that kind of mirrors a lot of those elements in a lot of ways in a very modern, entertaining kind of way. That's just like a little bit just more gritty about those kind of topics. Like a little more of a Fight Club kind of. David Fincher had a perspective on it too. But yeah, it's just a very ridiculous character. I mean, it's as big of a psycho as it gets. I mean, he's just kind of terrible to everybody around him, but his repulsiveness is just so entertaining of how he still gets by around all of that. Like it's some of the most intense nihilism I've ever seen in a character. And Hardy's just kind of Thomas Hardy just almost has like an old school like way about this, kind of like how Malcolm McDowell does in The Clockwork Orange, where it's like kind of it's like the genius psycho who's all the more intimidating because it's like, well, he can almost dominate. The psycho can be a dominating force, and it almost just looks directly into the heart of that in a lot of ways. And there's just nothing quite like it. It really lands as an original kind of masterpiece. And one of my favorite moments is also just its use of Scott Walker's The Electrician. It's a mesmerizing sequence all throughout. And all this is just it's a perfectly made biopic in its own kind of way. Like I really love this film all through. I love how it's paced. I love how it's told. And yeah, it's just got a unique amount of insanity, which this is awesome filmmaking from start to finish. It's horribly insane also, but it's like it is. Yeah, much like it's about the same feelings as A Clockwork Orange, where it's like I think a challenge of like, well, this is such a rush, but it's also like it is psychotic, but it's like studying that in a really great psychological lens. I love Refn's take on that. So yeah, this is strongly recommended from start to finish.